This is the Ezra podcast, and we're talking about a big night in women's boxing. I always talk about boxing and where's the growth going to come from? Where are we going to see the next few years where this sport can even expand even more, grow even more? And that's why leagues have commissioners. Commissioners are there to grow the league. They're not there to just keep where it's at. They're not. That's not what they're doing. Even the NFL, which has the biggest audience of any sport, right, in America, is still constantly looking to grow the league. It's still constantly looking to grab new viewers, to keep viewers, and to grow on its viewers, and to grab young viewers, and to grab women viewers. This is what they're trying to do. That's what a commissioner does. And in boxing, I always was curious, where's the growth going to come from? Now, network deals, which I've always have stated how positive that they have been for boxing. And I know I grew up with HBO, I grew up with Showtime. I understand how great that era was. But network deals have given fighters so much more opportunities, and especially the lower weights have gotten way more attention because of network deals, because they need to fill this space. They have to put on so many cards. And if you want world-class boxing, right, and you want it consistently, you're going to have to go to the lower weights because they're not the most expensive, right? They're definitely more affordable. There's some of the best fighters in the world are there. You're consistently going to you can make entertaining matchups, right? Well, another place that I thought people wasn't getting enough attention and just started toward like kind of towards the end of HBO's run, and definitely DAZN, and now Showtime. I'm sorry, ESPN is diving in with Top Rank and Matchroom and Golden Boy, is women's boxing. Women's boxing now, and especially the year it's having, especially working off Serrano Taylor, which to me is still fight of the year in my opinion. It has a real room for growth and real room to build off of something, and it's definitely going to get the opportunities that it deserves, honestly. And you can see the skill level going up, you can see the talent going up, you can see the level of athlete going up in women's boxing. So this weekend we have a card that's, first of all, it's an all women's card, and there's two massive fights, women fights out there. You got Claressa Shields versus Savannah Marshall, right, at 160 pounds, and you have Michaela Mayer versus Alicia Baumgardner, and it's going to be at 100. And to be exact, here, I want to make sure I'm exact on this. I want to say it's at 130, but this is at 130 pounds. Yes, I was correct. At 130 pounds. And these are fights that are evenly matched up. They're at a very high level, and they really have good build to them. They have good skill in the ring, is good talent. So let's get to the first fight, the main event: Claressa Shields versus Savannah Marshall. Now, Savannah Marshall beat Claressa Shields in the amateur. I guess that's kind of like the build up here, right? Is that, she beat her in the amateurs. You see that used a lot. They especially use that in a lot of matches that are usually tune-ups, right? Or stay busy fights. They need to get a guy that and build a storyline there. They'll be like, this guy beat you in the amateurs. Maybe you can fight him here. He's not that high level of a pro, but we used it the fact that you're trying to get revenge for the amateurs, right? That's usually what happens here. I do think Savannah Marshall is pretty skilled, though. Now, she definitely does things that maybe you wouldn't train. Definitely have more of a natural talent, but I also think that shows. I also think that shows how good she really is. The fact that she does stuff that is natural to her, right? That she is loose, that she doesn't have to second guess the actions, that she is so long, and she does have some pop to her. Even though I know that she's finding a lot of girls that with uh really bad records, right? Or what people use as kind of like cans, right? To build a record. Yes, she has those. But even when she stepped up, the two fights that I seen her step up in, her power stood there. And you could tell that she has power. You could tell that she doesn't need a lot behind it to get her power. And she does throw wasted shots, but it's just to kind of distract you before she sets in, like between a big shot. She does things that, like, she switches in front of you. She does lose her back leg behind her. She gets like kind of like awkward spots. Now, she's never really faced anyone close to Claressa Shields' level. That's the truth. And Claressa Shields is the best woman fighter in the world. But Claressa Shields does have a few distractions going on. I mean, she is making an attempt to switch to MMA. And even though she is far beyond all her competition, little slip ups like that could happen where she's not as sharp as she once was when she was just focusing on boxing. And remember, you're mixing in kicks, mixing in different ranges. It could throw you off, just not being as sharp as Claressa Shields usually is. Now, I don't think Claressa Shields is a hard puncher at all. She's not even a hard puncher in MMA. She's not a hard puncher in boxing. And it gets a person like Savannah Marshall, who I think if Claressa Shields fights, controlled pace, chooses her shots, she should be able to win a majority of the rounds. But because she doesn't have power, and because sometimes Savannah Marshall is good at riding shots and working her way inside and trading in between shots, she's always gonna have opportunity in this fight. And I think that fight could get very interesting. Now, it's also very interesting how Claressa Shields reacts to just the length of it all. Does it give her any problems? Because to me, Claressa Shields, if she's picking shots, she's using her speed, using her balance. I think she should be able to pick Savannah Marshall apart a little bit in rounds, right? At least enough to get the decision, right? Enough to win each round. The problem is that sometimes Shields does get a little bit greedy, right? And she'll really go for something, and she just doesn't have the power to really go for something in this fight, in my opinion. And I think if she does get greedy and she does the thing where she kind of flurries from too far away and kind of like runs in, she could really get caught with some big shots from Marshall, especially her left hook. Now, like I said, if Shields gets stuck at range, it'll be interesting if she has to force it. Because if she has to start forcing her offense, I think she could really get in trouble in this fight. Now, if Claressa Shields can pick her shots in the middle of the ring, stay in the middle of the ring, use her legs to keep, to be able to cut the distance by circling, right? Using her fast footsteps to get around Savannah Marshall, to turn her while you turn her, you're cutting off the distance and kind of keeping her off balance. I think that's her best chance. That's not her best chance. That's the way she should win this fight, right? She should win this fight by having Savannah Marshall not being able to stand in front of her, having Savannah Marshall not being able to use her legs when she wants to, and kind of having Savannah Marshall a step behind the whole time. And her using just like her strength and balance to beat Savannah Marshall. Now, like I said, if she gets greedy or she gets stuck on the outside and she does have problem with Savannah Marshall's length, right? And the Marshall's length and then her being able to come in and close the distance kind of gets Shields kind of flurrying like she can at times. She even does this in MMA at times. She just flurries. I think that she could be in trouble in this fight. Now, I'm going to pick Claressa Shields to win this fight, but I'm going to pick it with a controlled performance. Like I said, if it gets out of control for her, if she gets greedy, or she just having trouble with length, having trouble to read Savannah Marshall when she's far away and then all the way inside, because she does do that, she could have a lot of problems in this fight. I know that I get it when people are saying like, "Oh, Shields is just going to be far superior to Marshall." I think she should be able to win. I think she should be able to win these rounds, but I do think she's going to have problems in this fight, and I do think that there is going to be some times where she gets hit pretty clean, and we are going to see, I think, Shields' chin tested. I think you are going to see her in a tough fight here. Do I think she could get a stoppage in this fight? I think it would have to be later in the fight. I think it would have to take really all her punches adding up and damage adding up later in the fight for her to get a stoppage. But I could see her winning a decision. I'm going to pick her to win a decision in this fight. I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think it's going to be one of Shields' toughest fights. And I think especially because I don't think she'll be maybe at her sharpest in this fight. And I'm curious if any frustration or any anger or because of the buildup of this fight causes her to maybe get out of her game a little bit and let Savannah Marshall get working on the inside and let Savannah Marshall be able to punch in between the flurries, because that's what she doesn't want. She doesn't want to get trading. She wants to be able to pick her spots and her choose when she goes, right? And not continuous flow where she leaves openings for Marshall to start getting her game going where she's, touching with shots and then mixing a big hook in or mixing a big straight right in. Also watch Savannah Marshall has touches. She kind of touches you, right? She's touching you. It doesn't look like much. It looks like she's kind of like playing with you. And then she sticks a hard shot in there. She doesn't need a lot of motion to get a lot of her hard shots in there. She can stick it in between the light touches. So that's what I'm saying when Shields has to be under control, because she might feel like this is nothing and then come in and she might be walking into something big. So it all has to be under control. I think the Shields jab is going to be very important in this fight. The Shields movement circling Savannah Marshall so she doesn't get comfortable and start moving her legs. She constantly has to be adjusting to Shields, and as Shields turns her, she slowly cuts the distance. Then she's in, catches her, wraps up, gets distance, spread out again, jab. That's what I think the Shields game has to be. If it gets to a point where she's kind of letting Marshall get comfortable in there. That's the last thing she wants. She doesn't want Marshall getting comfortable, getting the rhythm of her game. She doesn't want to get in exchanges with her, and she doesn't want to get stuck on the outside. It's going to be a lot of movement from Shields. I don't think that it could be a staring match. I think it has to be Shields boxing a very good fight to win a decision here. Like I said, I do think there'll be worrisome moments for her, but I'm going to take her to win a decision here. On the undercard, this is a very good fight, very evenly matched fight. Michaela Mayer versus Alicia Baumgardner, unifying their belts. Oh, the Claressa Shields and Marshall is for undisputed. But Mayer and Baumgardner, Baumgardner hopped onto the scene and really popped into the scene when she knocked out Terry Harper. She, to me, when I seen her knock out Terry Harper, I thought I saw that what could be a future star in boxing, what could be really the biggest star women's boxing has probably ever produced. I really think I see that with Alicia Baumgardner. Now, I do think that we saw the Terry Harper knockout, and we assume that she has great power. I don't know if she has great power. I think she has good power, but I don't know if she has great power. I don't think that if she for sure lands, you're going to sleep. I don't think that's the case. Now, I think she's a very well-rounded fighter. I think she has athleticism that we don't see in women's boxing often. I don't think that maybe besides like Claressa Shields, Baumgardner, and maybe Katie Taylor are like the best athletes in boxing. Just as far as like natural ability, explosion, speed, Baumgardner is up there, and she might be above Katie Taylor, and maybe on level Shields, or maybe even above her too as well. She's a special level type of athlete. Now you got Michaela Mayer, who is a natural fighter, is almost like if she was built to fight, and she has a natural feel for fighting, a natural feel for offense. That's the truth of it. She has a natural feel for offense. It is loose. It is kind of like active. She's very active with her offense. She has a good punch output. She's constantly flowing. She has good cardio. She was just in a fight that, a year ago, it could have been like fight of the year. And with Baumgardner, who is more selective with her shots, more looking to set you up, more looking to counter, it's a very interesting fight because Mayer's going to get after her. Now, Mayer, I think, doesn't have great defense at all, especially on the inside. I think she has terrible defense on the inside. I think she really actually falls apart in her positioning on the inside. Now, Baumgardner is good, but I've never really seen her commit to the inside like that. She kind of wants to stay on the outside and respond. I would be very curious to see if they try to test Mayer on the inside. Now, I'm not saying the Mayer offense is good on the inside, because her offense is good on the inside. Her offense is good at mid-range, at range, or in the inside. It's very good, but it's just her defense has a lot of holes in it. It's almost non-existent. It's almost her offense is her defense. And Alicia Baumgardner has good defense. She's more well-rounded, and she does have more pop than Mayer. I don't think Mayer has good pop at all. So Mayer's just going to look to outwork you, to put it on you, and it's going to be interesting if her chin's going to hold up against Baumgardner, who I think has power. Like I said, not great power, but has power and is able to pick shots and will counter Mayer in this fight. I think this is a good matchup as far as like two conflicting styles that I think are going to mesh well and lead to an entertaining fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Mayer takes a lot of early rounds in this fight, but I think the damage will eventually start adding up. I think that you cannot leave this many openings for a fighter like Baumgardner, who is explosive with her counter punches. I think Baumgardner breaks her down in this fight. I think she loses a good number of early rounds, breaks her down with counterpunching, Mayer leaving too much openings. I wouldn't be surprised if Baumgardner tests the inside on this fight and gets the stoppage, I'm going to say, in the 8th round of this fight. I think this fight's going to be very entertaining. I think it would be more entertaining than the main event. I think it's going to be very competitive. I think at times it'll break out into all-out war. I just don't think Mayer's going to be able to hold up with the shots that Baumgardner's bringing back to her. Now, if Mayer does win this fight, I think that it'll be because Baumgardner is just outworked, and I don't think that she doesn't like the pressure. She doesn't like the being forced into the offense, and maybe she'll get out of her game a little bit. But just the activity that Mayer has and the pinpoint shots of Mayer, because Baumgardner, I said, is athletically gifted and superior to a lot of women fighters, but she's also facing someone that could almost match like uh at least just like the comfortability and the high level of fighter that Meyer and Baumgardner are. They're both facing something that they probably never faced before, right? They never faced before, never seen. So they've never, I guarantee they never sparred no one. They never trained with anyone that was at their level like this. This is the first time they're both going to see it. So you're going to see who can respond at this level, right? You're going to, who can respond when they're being matched athletically, they're being matched skill wise, and there's just natural ability is equal in there. That's when you're going to see what like a true champion is. It's like the other things. It's the other thing. It's not just what your technique is. It's not just what your speed or power is. It's like what's your durability, what's your mental strength, your fatigue, your stamina, all those things. You're going to see those tested in this fight, and that's where it gets really interesting. Like I said, I'm gonna pick Baumgardner and stoppage in this fight, but I'm curious to see if Mayer touching her up early, if it does something to her, if she falls apart. Can she stay strong enough to lose the first few rounds and stay comfortable and say, like, I'm still going to be able to get my shots. I got to stay positive. I'm going to still apply my game, not fall apart, not get out of my game in this fight. I think it's a very interesting card. I think it's, hopefully it doesn't get delayed. The Queen of England passed away, and a lot of times they delay the sports or they cancel sports and they push it off until like a morning period. So I'm hoping this fight still goes on. We're going to see. I was going to hold off on the breakdown for it because I wasn't sure if it was going to happen, but there's no news, and I don't want to miss out on giving a breakdown for this fight. Thank you guys for listening. This has been wrong one. This has been the Ez Raw podcast. Peace.